Have you experienced the awesome power of the Panasonic Real 3DO system? Obviously.
Presenting 3DO, the most advanced home gaming system in the universe. It's time to put away your toys.
3DO from Panasonic, Gold Star, and Creative Labs. A new low price and free games.
Mind-blowing graphics of Panasonic Real 3DO. 3DO.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 3DO Experience, the 3DO retrospective podcast where we talk about the 3DO company, the console, and everything in between. I am Bill, and this is Threk. How you doing, Threk?
I'm sick. For those who don't know, for the last few days, I've been fighting a pretty nasty cold. I would say I'm doing better than I have been, but it's still, coming and going. I don't think it's COVID. It's probably not. I didn't get a test at this point. There's no real reason for it, but I'm taking the meds. I'm doing what I can, so I'm hanging in there. So how are you, Billy boy?
I'm doing all right. I had one of those days at work where I was just like standing all day and it just like wiped the hell out of me, but
You couldn't just sit down?
not really. There's chairs I could pull up, but I was on a lathe, and sitting down at a lathe to me is just kind of weird. It just doesn't feel right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was one of those though, and then the big wigs from California were in the building today, so we all had to pretend that the place was organized for a day.
Are they bald? Or are they wearing wigs?
Some of them are.
Okay.
Yeah,
Were they big? Like the wigs were they wearing? Were they big or were they just little things?
they were big people, not like
Fat?
No, they were more on the tall, like you get
Oh.
like kind of
Okay,
imposing.
because then I was gonna use the Scott Steiner reference back in TNA when he was talking about Samoa Joe, and he would just go, "He's fat," which is always
Yeah.
really funny to me.
Yeah,
But for some reason in my sickened state, I decided to start playing a bunch of NES games. Like I'm still working through Like a Dragon, but I hit chapter 5 before I got sick, and I just really haven't had the mental fortitude to tackle that game. So, and I saw, if you know Jeff Gertzman, if you know who he is, he has a little running series on his little show podcast thing where he's scientifically ranking all of the NES catalog, but he's just kind of doing random games here and there, kind of thing. And it's interesting to see, and it kind of got me rethinking about the NES. So I've been playing those. Some games I grew up with, some that I discovered more recently, and I beat Kung Fu for the first time, which is, it's a fun game for what it is. I beat Zelda 1 for the first time,
Nice.
which holds up surprisingly. There's a really cool hidden gem on NSO called Vice Project Doom. It's kind of like a Ninja Gaiden cross like Spy Hunter thing or whatever, which is pretty solid. I can still do Where's Waldo in like 5 minutes or less than that. That game sucks, but I'm really good at it.
yeah.
I grew up with that game. I also had the Ghostbusters NES game. That game is
the one with the wonderful title screen.
Ghostbusters. Yeah, that game sucks.
Yeah, it does.
I also had Home Alone 2 Lost in New York. That game sucks. Jeez, why did I prefer Sega as a kid? I had all these like shitty games, man. Well, I had Mario and Tecmo Bowl, but a game I have been I've actually put quite a bit of time on is a game I had as a kid, but it used to scare me. And I kind of get why. Have you ever heard of a game called The Adventures of Rad Gravity?
I have not.
It is a strange little, but when you look up the cover, just let me know, because it's a weird one.
Adventures of Rad Gravity. Oh,
Yeah, that is an 80s name.
that's a cover, all right.
Yeah. As a kid, I was like, why is it like that? And then you pop the game in, and just the opening bits of it just kind of freaked me out.
Oh God. What am I looking at here?
You're looking at like a short king with a Giga Chad chin, like kind of buck teeth and like the Elvis curl, and he's like a space mercenary or something. I think he's Samus. I think he's a bounty hunter. And you're just traveling the galaxy, going to planets to fuck shit up, and your best friend is a robot that's just an eye. In fact, after you do the first area, some, I guess, pirates in like an ice cream van steal your robot friend. So you go save him. And then from being put on like a conveyor belt where they have these little globs of green turn into these like weird flying creatures that try to grab you on your head. And the only way to kill them is to smash them up against a conveyor belt. It's a very weird game, but fuck me if it's not actually kind of good. Like, it's made by the people who made Earthworm Jim.
Oh, Shiny Entertainment.
Interplay.
Okay. Yeah, it was like Interplay and Shiny Entertainment, I believe, were the two companies that made Earthworm
Jim. But like it said Interplay on there, and I'm like, yeah, this feels like an Interplay game where it's kind of weird and almost feels half unfinished, but it's good. You know, it's not terrible. I'm actually kind of halfway through it, so I might just end up finishing it up. So yeah, that's been my gaming for some reason, doing a bunch of 8-bit shit while I'm trying to recover from this horrific cold.
Yeah, aside from the game we're going to be talking about today, the only game I've been playing recently is I was playing a game called Rocket Robot on Wheels.
Oh, your favorite.
Well, spoiler warning, I may have appeared on an N64 themed podcast recently talking about it. So I'll leave my thoughts for when that comes out, but it still holds up and I enjoyed it very much.
Shocker, a game he likes, he still likes.
I do enjoy me some Sucker Punch Productions games, so
I've been meaning to play that game because I have heard good things about it, especially from you. I just haven't gotten around to it.
I'll say when you play it, you'll notice a lot of things that will immediately remind you of Sly Cooper and like Infamous in a lot of ways.
Okay.
It's got that Sucker Punch feel to it.
That's what I like. I like a sucker feel.
Yeah, but other than that, I haven't really been doing a lot of gaming. I'm reading the Pokemon Adventures manga right now for a future Geek Addicts topic, and I still can't believe that manga actually got made sometimes.
I'm not. It makes money.
It does, but there's some like really dark shit in there that I'm surprised Nintendo lets happen.
They probably view it as like the manga is not that mainstream of a thing, so they can kind of get away with it, you know? So
yeah, there's like legit points in there though where Pokemon legit get cut in half, and you're like, what?
fuck? Do you see their bones and guts and gore?
It's not graphic, but you still see the like in half in the background. You're like, oh, dear Lord.
In the Pokemon universe, do people eat Pokemon?
It's never been explained.
So that's not a canon thing. Like people don't like fry up like Goldies and have like a fish fry.
You know, it's never been explained. I don't even think the manga's touched on that.
So they're all just vegans.
Maybe.
Or they're secretly eating Miltanks. They just don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than that though, not a whole lot. I've actually been on like a weird like Metallica binge lately. I don't know why. But
I've been listening to a lot of Yes.
Nice. I was listening to the albums in order, and I got through like the Cliff era albums, and then I got to Injustice for All, and I started listening. I'm like, I immediately stopped. I'm like, nope. So I booted up YouTube and found the Injustice for Jason version. Like, this is the only way I can listen to this album now. So
I love Injustice for All. It's my favorite album of theirs. Probably one of my favorite metal albums of all time. Maybe one of my favorite albums of all time. But hearing it with bass, it's very much you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, you know.
Yeah.
You can't go back because it just sounds so much better, you know.
Yeah, Lars's drums don't sound nearly as dead.
Yeah, it's a prime example of how important the bass guitar is in metal, even though a lot of times you don't necessarily hear it, you know, like it's not very audible with certain bands, but it just adds that bottom end to the guitars that is very necessary, and also like interlocks in the rhythms with the drums to really give it that extra body, you know. It's that it's almost similar to the Phil Spector wall of sound philosophy, whereas it's going to be felt more than heard. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's probably what he said when he killed that person, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like it's necessary, you know. But then there are certain metal bands like Iron Maiden or Anthrax who you hear the bass, like the basses of even Megadeth, where the bass guitar is very important to the sound of that band, you know, and you hear what they're doing.
One comparison I always like to do is I like to take like Injustice for All and then like compare it to like its nearest contemporary, which to me is Rust in Peace. And it's like you listen to Rust in Peace, and the rhythm section on Rust in Peace is so tight, like it's like night or day.
Well, Dave Ellefson and Nick Menza are a bit much better rhythm section than Jason Newsted and Lars Ulrich, you know.
Yeah, like, I mean, Jason Newsted
Jason is a good bass player. Yes, he's a very, very talented bass player, but I think he was never allowed to really be the bass player that he could have been in Metallica. No. You know. So, and then Lars is a good drummer when he practices. When he puts in effort, he's very good.
His work on the first 3 albums is excellent, and then it's like after that.
He's fantastic on Injustice. He's incredible on that record.
I just wish his drums didn't sound like shit. That's like my only real issue.
I don't mind the clicky bass and all that stuff. I don't mind that sound. It's a very like kind of processed drum sound that he has, but his performance is so good. And if people say, "Oh, but it's not the live concerts," watch. I think it's Live in Seattle '89. Like he is fucking killing it, like the whole time. So you know when he's being pushed to actually try, he can do really well. But the problem is these days he doesn't have to try anymore because nobody's going to tell him no, right?
Yeah. Well, to me, it's like how you got Rob Trujillo in there now, and it's like he is so criminally underutilized in Metallica at this point.
Yeah,
but at the same time, he makes so much fucking money, he doesn't care.
Yeah, like him being there, you know, the bass is going to be treated well, and if you listen to any of the modern Metallica stuff he's in, the bass is there. But it's not. But it's there more in like a modern metal kind of sense. Yeah, where it's like it's there, but it's not prominent in the mix. You know, and it's a shame they don't really use his musical talents more in the songwriting. You know, he's just the bass player.
It's the same thing with Jason. Like Jason only got to write 3 songs in his entire tenure.
And they're all great.
Blackened.
He didn't write Blackened. His only. Music. Well, I think the only reason he has a credit is because he was like, "Oh, flip the intro." Like the intro was meant to go the other way. Yeah, like, I think that's the only thing he's credited for is saying to flip the intro. But was it My Friend of Misery?
Yeah, with his bass solo.
Love that bass line. Prince Charming from Reload's pretty good. Yeah, just underutilized talent. Unfortunately.
Then you listen to his solo record he did, and it's like, holy shit, like, this guy could write metal.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, speaking of underutilized talent, I've been listening to a lot of Yes. I was listening to the Drama album, which is a fantastic record.
Yes.
But today, to and from work, I was listening to Relayer, my favorite Yes album, with the incredible. I think it's just a pencil drawing that Roger Dean did with the ice caverns, the snake, and the guys, and you know, and God fucking damn it, that album is so good. It's my favorite Yes record. I think it's their best record because it takes the Close to the Edge format and just goes completely bonkers with it. You know, it's not Topographic Oceans, which is too much. Like this is much more kind of more in a easier format to take. but they, bring in Patrick Moraz because Rick Wakeman was like, fuck this shit. And and Moraz just brings in this intense sort of style, like a jazzy feel, and a guy who Patrick Moraz, I would compare him more as like a Keith Emerson, a guy who has classical training, but he never completed his classical training. So you can tell, like Rick Wakeman completed his training, and you can hear that when he plays. Like he's very technically proficient, but he's not jazzy in any sort of sense. Like he doesn't have that musician's sort of instinct. You know what I mean? Even though I like him, I think he's a great player. But you listen to, say, Moraz, he knows where to insert like his own personality in there, and just really makes those tracks. Like Gates of Delirium, like Sound Chaser. Like Sound Chaser, I think, to me, Sound Chaser sounds like they were listening to what Bruford was doing in Crimson and being like, can we do a little bit of that, but do it in a yes way, Especially like Alan White's little drum solo in Sound Chaser. Like, Jesus Christ, that thing is amazing. And then To Be Over, it's like, okay, we've assaulted your ears for like half an hour. Let's put you on a little boat, and you just kind of transport down, because To Be Over is beautiful. So
yeah, Yes has like a few albums that I feel like are just kind of criminally underrated. Like Relay is one of them, Drama is another. Talk does not get enough love.
Yeah.
The Ladder.
Magnification.
I mean, those last two Anderson albums are just really good.
Yeah.
Even the original version of Fly From Here, I feel like, doesn't get enough love for what it is.
Poor Benoit David.
His version is so much better. I mean, nothing against...
And he's a great singer.
I like him more than the guy they got now.
Oh, John Davidson. He's
so boring.
He just feels like a John Anderson clone. The only reason they got him is because he kind of looks like John Anderson and he kind of sounds like John Anderson. And he's from like some boring ass prog band called Glass Hammer. So yeah. But like the first two Yes albums are also really interesting. The two Peter Banks records. Even if I don't love either of them in totality, I think the best tracks from each make a pretty interesting record. The Yes album is a little overlooked, just a little bit.
I mean, it has like quite possibly one of the catchiest guitar songs ever with the clap.
Yeah. And let's see. Oh, Starship Trooper is a big one.
Starship Trooper.
That's a big one. Yours is No Disgrace. A personal favorite of mine, Perpetual Change. Like when the music kind of slowly shifts to one of the channels and then you start hearing shit in the other channel. That's really cool. But yeah, like Fragile, everybody knows Fragile. Close to the Edge, everybody knows Close to the Edge. And then it's like Topographic Oceans, everybody knows about it, right? But
people either love that album or hate it. It's like one or the other.
It's just too much. It's too much. But I haven't sat down and listened to that record in a long time because it's a big commitment. Yes. Because it's 4 Yes epics in a row. That's it. Like no breaks, no breathers. And all 4 of them have something incredible in them. But sometimes to get to that is a pain in the ass. But what can you do? But Relayer's fantastic. I love that album. It's amazing. Going for the One's really good.
Yep.
Tormato is a mess. Sometimes a lovable mess, but other times it's just not good.
I love the story of the album cover where it's like,
I
guess John Anderson, I think, hated it so much he threw a tomato at it. And
it was Rick Wakeman.
Rick Wakeman,
that's more of a Wakeman thing. Yeah. But yeah, I could go. I mean, there's a lot to talk about. Yes.
Yeah.
So, but they're a great band. So
100%. But anyways, so as we had said last week, we ran a poll for this episode's game. And everyone picked the joke entry. Thanks, Aaron.
You fuckers. You absolute shitheads.
So for this episode, we are going to be talking about the wonderfully acclaimed sarcasm, Ballz, the director's cut.
Well, I'm glad this game's cut as opposed to uncut.
Yeah.
Oh, God. So... Yeah, I guess, like, what did you know about this game? Do you know anything about it?
So I knew 2 things about it. I knew it was the fighting game where like they made all the characters out of like pre-rendered spears, and I knew it was also the fighting game where like the entire soundtrack was porno music. That was about all I knew about it. And then
Is
I
that
saw it at
real? Is the music like actually taken from that, or is it
I
just
don't
like
think
that's what
it's
it sounds like?
I don't think it's actually from porno. I think it's just stylized to sound like what you'd hear in a porno music. I mean, the title track has moaning in it. It's like, what is this?
Yeah, it's very 90s, but
It was,
like not the 90s people want to remember.
yeah. Now, this game is mostly known for its SNES and Genesis ports, which are horrendous. Like, I actually booted up the emulator to try them out to see if they were any different. They are bad, like really surprisingly bad.
Like
Um,
they don't run well, I don't think.
no, they don't. So this originally, I thought this game might have had like an arcade port or something or a PC port, but it doesn't. It was only released on SNES, Genesis, and 3DO, and the 3DO version is the quote unquote best version.
I'm surprised this wasn't released on like the Atari Jaguar. This feels like an Atari Jaguar game to me.
It looks like a game that would run on it.
Yeah, it probably did. I mean, hell, I could see this game on like PlayStation, Sega Saturn, the 32X. You know, like this is the kind of game I could just imagine it being everywhere.
Yeah. So a little I guess like some release history. The game came out in 94. All three versions 94. I assume the 3DO one was a little later on just because they cleaned it up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is because I think it says 95 on here. Yeah, it says 95 on the back of the manual.
So this game actually has a multitude of different names. Like the most famous name for the game is Ballz 3D, although that's not officially the name of the game. The game is technically just called Ballz.
Yeah, because on the Genesis, it's Ballz 3D, the Battle of the Balls.
Ballz.
Oh my god!
Lovely.
So why the fuck does it say balls with the Z, but then when it says Battle of the Balls, it goes back to the S? Like, there's no consistency in the fucking joke.
I have a feeling that was added by Accolade.
Yeah. The famous Accolade published this atrocity.
Ironically, they did not publish this version though.
No,
Panasonic did.
Oh, thanks.
Oddly enough.
Thanks, guys.
Another fun thing about this game is this game was developed by PF Magic.
Yes. And what else have they made?
Well, they made another game on 3DO that's wonderfully known as Petanque. I think we've mentioned it a few times before in the past.
Yeah, we've mentioned that one.
I'm sure we'll be covering Petanque eventually. But they're most famous for, believe it or not, they created the Pets series, which is like those games that you see in like the shovelware bin that are like dogs or cats or hamsters or babies. Ubisoft shits those out like every couple of months, basically.
Oh, do they still make those games?
So I did a little digging. So PF Magic made the classic games, which were all PC games that you'd probably find on in like the educational bargain bin.
Yeah.
Eventually, Ubisoft bought the entertainment division of the Learning Company, which had the rights to these games, plus like the remains of PF Magic. And Ubisoft has been just making their own spins on this for years. Just pretty much, I think the last one was like 2014.
I'll take your word for it. I feel like I have a couple of these in my GBA collection because they're probably like $2 or $3 a pop at most.
I have horses for the Wii, but I'm pretty sure that was Alex's, and I just kind of ended up with it.
I didn't know your sister was a horse girl.
She rode for a little while. She's not like obsessed though.
Okay. But yeah, it's basically Nintendogs for people who are really into pets.
Yeah, it was like the bargain bin Nintendogs. Like it wasn't nearly as fun in any way, but they had a lot more options.
Even though it came out before Nintendogs.
Yes, the original games definitely did.
Yeah, but Nintendo probably saw that and went, "Oh, we could do that better."
And then Ubisoft's like, "Hey, we have this license. We should probably bring it back.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they tried to capitalize on the Nintendogs craze and probably didn't work.
It's interesting though, because you look at PF Magic's entire gamography, because they were only around from like looks like about like 92 to 99. Like that was their game release time frame.
Yeah.
And all of their games are essentially cats or dogs or pets games. Their only
Yeah.
exceptions are Ballz, Petanque, Max Magic, and Third Degree, 2 CDI games.
Ooh, the CDI.
Yeah.
I like that apparently the Z is sort of like a thing with them because all the
Yeah.
Pets games have a Z as well. Which I had to guess the Z's on like the dogs and the cats was probably because they couldn't patent or trademark like dogs with an S. Like that's too common a word. So the patent office was probably like, well, if you do it with the Z, that's different enough. And that's how they got away with it.
Yeah. I'm apparently these games are pretty like well received for people that are into that kind of game, but
yeah, I couldn't give a shit about Nintendogs when it was around. So if that tells you anything about how I feel about them.
Yeah. So I guess going back to Ballz, because
going back down.
You're going to hear a lot of that this episode.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think we're going to make more jokes about it than the fucking game does.
Yeah. I guess to briefly describe the game, it's best described as an incredibly rudimentary 3D fighting game.
That is being incredibly generous.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about it. Like, you know how there are some fighting games that are very heavy in the tech, we'll say. Games like Blaze Blue or Guilty Gear or whatever, right? Like games that are known for being very difficult and very complicated, right? But, it's rewarding if you do it. I don't care. But then you have games like Mortal Kombat or Soul Calibur that have that tech, but are a little bit more beginner friendly, right? They're easier to kind of get yourself in to figure it out, right? And then you have, say, even below that, Super Smash Brothers, where you can button mash and kind of figure your way through it, but there's also advanced tech, but it kind of accommodates all different kind of playing styles, even when they mash together. There's a way to accommodate that. Whereas with this fucker, there's nothing. Like there's absolutely, I mean, there are combos and special moves, but in my time with playing this game, like none of that is necessary at all. Like there's only the best strategy if you want to be good at this game, what I found is because it says it's a 2.5D fighting game, but really it's a 3D fighting game. And you can sidestep, right? Like you have buttons for sidestepping. And apparently when you sidestep, you can actually get closer to the enemy when you sidestep. So if you're, say, super far apart like that, right? Mm-hmm. You can sidestep and get closer to them and get behind them and then just mash one of the attack buttons until they die. And you just repeat that. And it's like, that's not tech. That's not anything interesting. Like this game doesn't require like any thought behind it at all. And even in that like mindlessness, it's not fun.
So,
like this game just isn't good.
Full disclosure, I got through the single player mode of this game by just button mashing through every fight, and that's all you really need. Yeah,
like the most I did was, besides that, was I was playing as the clown. Which one's the clown? Oh, Boomer. Yeah. Okay, Boomer. People don't say that anymore. But like he has the attack where you can take his head and like chuck it at people, or you can bowl it. Right? I would do that occasionally. But other than that, I would just do what I just said to do. But it's not fun. Like this game isn't that interesting. Like graphically, it looks like shit. Yeah, exactly. He's rocking out. He's rocking out with his balls out, Like, and it's just like, it's not that interesting to look at. The soundtrack is horrendous. The controls aren't really that good. The camera constantly is going in and out.
Yeah.
Like you have no sense of geometry or like anything of where your characters are in this weird plane of ethereal space that you're in. And like you don't really get any good feedback while you're playing the game as far as like what you're doing is works or not. Like it feels like the fighting mechanics, if any, are being held by duct tape. And it's
Yeah.
just it's just bad. Like this game is just bad, but it's not like spectacularly bad. You know, it's not like a Sonic 06 where it's like, oh, this is so incredible how fucking
It's
awful
not
this
like
game
a Sonic
is.
06 where you can just like get enjoyment out of how fucked up that game can get at times.
Like this just isn't that. It's boring.
Mm.
And that's the worst thing a game can be, especially a fighting game, where if you look at it, right, for, you know, the the video watchers, hi YouTube, like if you can see, you're like, what the fuck is that? And then you sit down and play it, and it's like, well, this just isn't any good. Like it doesn't have anything. Like Shaq Fu is better than this. Because
Yeah.
at least Shaq Fu has some form of like fighting mechanics in it. At least Shaq Fu is much more fucking interesting than this because it's actually trying to do something that also spectacularly failed, but it's more interesting. You know what I mean? This game had one joke, and it's the title.
Yeah.
And I fucking hate it.
And they play with it so much throughout the game.
Yes, the most interesting thing about my entire experience with this game is that the back of the manual has a little ad for the 6-button pad. And weirdly enough, it's not it doesn't look like the one that I have. Like the button colors are different. But I can tell you, I have played it with this. I'm sure it plays better with this than it would the normal controller. But I can't believe this is the first fighting game I tested this with. Not Super Street Fighter 2, not Samurai Showdown, not Way of the Goddamn Warrior. But
Ballz.
This fucking Ballz.
So, you want to hear the perfect representation of how fucking pointless this game is?
I feel like I just did that.
So, here's a more, I guess, like layman's term way of saying it. Me and Alex demoed this game. Like we did a couple multiplayer matches just to try out. I actually tried to do like the combos and everything, and Alex just button mashed. Take a guess who won every round.
Miss One Piece.
Yes, because it doesn't matter how technical you are. The game is so just badly designed that you can just flail around like a crazy person, and you're most likely going to win because you're just going to out attrition the other player every time.
Yeah. It feels like an insult. You know, like I'm not even like a fighting game aficionado by any means, you know? Like probably the one fighting game I have any skill in is like Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on the Sega Genesis or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even then I wouldn't say I'm like tournament level or anything. No. You know? Like I played a few rounds of Soul Calibur with Chris from a Novel Console. You know, he was much better at it than I was, but you know, he plays fighting games. I really don't. I'll sit down and have fun with it, but then I move on, right?
Yeah.
But like even then, it's like those games have something going for them. They have a point. They have something to exist for. What the fuck? Why does this game exist? I've been pondering it, like laying in my bed, sick as hell. I couldn't help but think, like, why does this game exist? Like, what is the purpose? Why are we talking about this game? What is there here? There's nothing. Yeah.
I'll save it for when we get to our rankings at the end, but oh boy, there's one way to describe this game, and I'll get to it later. Did you read any of the manual by any chance?
I skimmed it.
It's interesting. They really like to play with the balls joke. Legit, there's a line in here that legit says, "You want to bust my balls?"
Which apparently they had to take out of the Super Nintendo version because, you know, Nintendo, they're like, oh, you can't do that.
So like this like passage here, it's like you start with nothing and you get to take a whooping. You're fighting to advance if you don't wet your pants. More wins than loses, and you meet my bosses. First, the kangaroo's gonna pummel you. He's a tail-bouncing foe, and a boxer, too. The ostrich may fool you into sneaking around. but then he's going to school you when his head's above ground. Like, we've suddenly entered Dr. Seuss here, and
No, do not insult that man with this garbage.
yeah, true. We've entered like the dollar store Dr. Seuss over here, I guess.
Yeah, lick them all and you'll meet the true tester.
What's funny though is I guess this game was intended to play with the 6 button because it actually gives a diagram of both play styles there.
That it does.
Just somewhat interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though these controls are pointless because you can just mash the buttons and you're going to win.
Yeah, and they're like not even that good. You know, like it's weirdly overcomplicated.
Yeah, there's a lot of moves.
You have one punch button, and then the D-pad is like all these different versions of like one punch, you know? And like there's like 2 different types of grapples. One where it turns into like those old like Sega Genesis like WWF games where you get into like a grapple and you just have to mash the button like crazy until you won. Like this is just that. But there's also opportunities to cancel it. So even if I win it, sometimes like if I win it, the opponent will just throw me away anyhow. So it's like, well, what's the fucking point of that? But then there's another grapple that you just get no matter what, which is like the controls are overly complicated for what this is. Like you have all these different inputs and all these different like combinations for things, you know, special moves and everything, but none of it matters. Like it is all just window dressing because the core of the fighting isn't fun.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like even the cover art, like, I mean, this is better than the shitty Genesis and Super Nintendo cover art, but this has got to be one of the least appealing.
No, I prefer the Genesis one because it has decapitation in it.
True.
Sticking with the theme. Yeah.
Because even like these like in-game like graphical shots on the back, like this is like one of the least appealing.
Mine doesn't have that for some reason.
Oh.
Yeah. Weird.
That's odd.
It's weird.
Huh. But anyways, I was gonna say though, like this has to be one of the least appealing looking fighting games I think I've ever seen. Like I can imagine picking this up as a kid on the shelf and just looking at it and be like, this looks dumb. Like,
and those screenshots don't even look as good as the gameplay does. Like they're not gameplay screenshots.
No, they're probably lifted from the Genesis or Super Nintendo version, to be honest.
You know, or they're probably just like stills they took while they were making the game because the game in motion isn't really that good either.
No,
like it runs fine, I guess, but it's
which
just
is
ridiculous.
saying something
and like look at these backgrounds, man.
Yeah,
like
they're incredibly basic.
They're just slop. They look like you remember those like I Spy books? That's what they look like. That they just took random shit from there and just threw them in the back, and they're like, oh, let's have a screen. You know, it's all there. There's no basis for this. Like literally, they were just like, oh, fighting games are in. Let's make a fighting game. Oh, like people like Ren and Stimpy, so we need to throw that shit in. Like they're throwing all of this in vogue stuff together to try to make a product. Like I think that's the issue. This doesn't feel like a game. This feels like a product.
This feels like a very early like internet meme before internet memes were a thing.
Yeah, like this is something you'd play on Newgrounds and laugh at.
Yeah,
you know. But even then, this isn't even that funny.
No, this is like you get a laugh at the haha. It's called Ballz, and it's all sex noises. Haha, that's funny for like 3 seconds, and even then, if you're like over the age of like 12, it's not really that funny.
Yeah, I haven't been 12 in years, so like, I don't know, man. I hated this.
Like
I hated this so much.
When I booted it up the first time, and I just heard the title screen, I just kind of paused and like raised an eyebrow and was just like, somebody made this and thought this is ready for consumers.
They were hoping to make a few bucks off of this. That's what this game feels like.
What's funny is though, it's not even one of those like so bad it's good kind of like in hindsight it's so stupid it's funny kind of games. This just is like one of those games where it's like you prank your friends with because you think you want to see them suffer for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And even then, it wears off super fast because there's not much to really do.
I mean, and yeah, it kind of has like innuendo, but just I don't know. For me, it just this whole thing is so absurd and ridiculous. It doesn't even like it's not even like just a little bit eyebrow raising. It doesn't even do that.
Yeah, it's more kind of like I guess it's kind of like modern, like I guess like a mid 2000. The best way I guess you could describe this is someone who's never played it before, has never seen it. I guess you could kind of like align it with like a mid 2000s like shock site where it's like you get that initial shock and then it kind of just wears off like real quick and you're kind of like, oh, it's just this.
I mean, I guess, but I feel like if you're shocked by this game, then you live a very sheltered life.
Yeah, true. I'm trying to be like as critical as I can, but there's like not. It's hard to even it's hard to even critique this game because there's so little there.
Exactly. Like it's as bare bones, or dare I say bare balls, as it gets. Like and like the core gameplay isn't even like fun to replay.
Yeah. So before we get into our rankings, I wanted to share some of the ratings this game got, and they are shocking. I'm not gonna lie. This game got a lot of like 80s and like 70s.
Why, in a world where like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat existed, like both of them were in their primes at this point. I mean, hell, you had Samurai Showdown, you had I'm sure that there was a shit ton of fighting games at this point.
Street Fighter.
I already said that. Was Deathstalkers a thing yet?
No, that was PlayStation era.
Okay. I mean, hell, like even Tekken was on the horizon.
Tekken
which Tekken became like the 3D fighter. So
yes.
Well,
Tekken was so the contemporary 3D fighter at this point was Virtual Fighter.
Oh yeah, Virtual Fighter was around this point.
Because Tekken was directly inspired from Virtual Fighter.
That's true. Oh yeah, Killer Instinct was out by this point. Fucking right. Killer Instinct. Hell, even Primal Rage, which even Primal Rage isn't that good of a fighter, but it's got fucking more than this.
If you want to play a fun version of Primal Rage, play Bloody Roar.
Yeah, Bloody Roar. Darkstalkers was a thing at this point. Golden Axe, the Duel, which I got a Saturn port. I mean, that's better than this. It's fucking ridiculous, man. X-Men: Children of the Atom. I've played that game. It's not bad.
Yeah. So like one interesting one I find. So Famitsu was more realistic, and they gave it a 28 out of 40. For the SNES version.
For them, that's low.
Yeah. Mean Machine Sega gave the Sega Genesis version a 91 out of 100. Like, what the fuck is that?
We should rename the show Mean Machines 3DO.
Yeah. 3D. Okay, I love the fact that 3DO Magazine would criticize 3DO games like openly. Like they gave this three stars.
I mean, that's not a bad score though.
It's like right down the middle.
Like the worst I'm seeing is Next Gen gave it a 2-star.
Yeah, it was like that, and Game Master gave the SNES version a 58.
Yeah, a failure. So that's what this game is, an absolute failure.
Yeah. There's
this game flunked high school.
Yeah. Honestly.
Because its humor is stuck in middle school.
Pretty much. And when we get around to playing Pétanque, you're going to see a lot of the same humor because...
Is there a game there at least?
Kind of. I mean, it's a game. It's not a good one, but I'll save that for when we get to it.
Because I've said it before, I'll say it again, and that's if the actual core of the gameplay is interesting or like at the very least fine, I can deal with any other random crap as long as the act of playing the game is enjoyable. But when the act of the game isn't enjoyable, then it just makes everything else bad worse. You know? Like I
Yeah.
just need a game to play. Like as I had mentioned, Adventures of Rad Gravity. There's a lot of weird shit in that game. Very fucking weird. But the act of doing the 2D platforming, it's not perfect, but it's solid. So it's like I'm sticking with it, for that. But this, like hell, I'm the moment I turn this is off and I turn this off, I'm never playing this fucker ever again.
This is going on the shelf to sit on the shelf for eternity. So
I mean, I do need frisbee practice, so this disc may be perfect for that.
it's a coaster. Perfectly fine coaster.
Yeah.
So basically at this point, all we have left to do is our must play. Okay, stay away. I'm just gonna flat out say it. This game is balls, and stay the fuck away. That's gonna be my ranking.
It gets a 0.
Like, don't play this game. Like, it's not even funny for like a meme. Like, there's no reason to play balls. It is shit in every way imaginable.
I hope the listeners of this enjoyed us suffering for this one.
I feel
because
bad.
it's not like say when we get to maybe Way of the Warrior, there might actually be something there to talk about. Or one game there's a game I've played on the 3DO that is bad, but there is stuff to talk about with it. I'm not going to say what game it is though. It has been mentioned on the show before, but like there's nothing to say here.
No,
and that's even the worst part is that it's bad, but it's just look at it. Like you already know that's bad, but it's not like a spectacularly bad.
Yeah, it's just so. It's such a nothing game.
Yeah,
it's a one-trick pony. Its gimmick is that it's absurd, and then once that wears off, there's legit no substance to it.
Yeah, like I would be better off playing Twisted again, even though I know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
but Twisted at least is enjoyable.
Twisted is a well-crafted game that had some thought put into it, even if it's not exactly perfect.
That game is wacky, but it's a good time.
It's wacky, but
time.
At least if you bring like 4 friends who have never played it before, you can at least have enjoyment of their reactions, even if like you already know what's going to happen.
That's true.
And even then, it's still so random. Like you might run into something that you don't expect. So
exactly.
But yeah, so my ranking is going to be stay the fuck away. What would you like to call this one?
The worst.
The worst. Okay. Perfect. So yeah, thanks for voting, everybody. This was a joy.
We got 40 minutes out of this bullshit.
We did. I mean, granted, 10 of it was talking about yes, but that's beside the point.
Well, I mean, any conversation of yes is like their songs. It has to be like 10 minutes.
Yes. So yeah. The question is now, what do we play next? We could do another fighter, or do you want to take a break from fighters?
I need a break from fighters.
Okay. Maybe a shooter this time around?
Yeah, I could blow some shit up. What are you thinking?
So you're thinking I'm thinking either a space shooter, maybe?
Which one?
So we got a few options. Do you have Shockwave?
Hold on. I do.
Oh, nice. So I was thinking either Shockwave, Total Eclipse.
I don't have Total Eclipse.
Okay. Then how about we just do a Shockwave?
Yeah. We can do this one.
Okay.
There might be something here.
Yeah, and I mean it got 2 sequels on the 3DO, so I mean that's a good sign, I guess.
Oh shit. Oh shit, we got to prepare because the invasion of Earth is happening 5 years ago. Shit.
Yeah, so we'll do Shockwave.
Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah. The polling's gonna cease for a bit. You fuckers chose wrong.
Yeah, we're gonna take a break from that, mostly just because this game ruined our awesome run we had going there.
We had a good run, but all good things must come to an end.
Yeah.
Or better yet, to quote the great George Harrison, all things must pass away. And I
Yes.
feel after this monstrosity, that I want to pass away.
Yeah, this was not fun in the slightest. But yeah, so once again, guys, thanks for suffering along with us on the 3DO experience. You can find the 3DO experience on all the major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're now available on YouTube, both in audio and video form. And you can find all of our links at linktree/thebarbecue games. And you can join the GNC Podcast Network Discord server to find out all things GNC, 3DO experience, Geek Addicts, talk gaming, anime, or just random nonsense. It's a fun place. We're all pretty nice there.
I want you all to spam Ballz in the 3DO chat when you hear this.
Yes.
Because then that'll prove to me you listen to the show.
And if you're in the Superpod Saga server as well, spam them there as well. Just to see what happens.
No, just ours. No, fuck Aaron's. No, just ours. Just
True.
the 3DO chat.
You know you can spam Aaron's server with Mahjong.
Yeah, do that.
Because he can suffer for that.
We need to get him on for that. I don't know when we are, though.
We'll figure it out eventually. But anyways, guys, once again, thanks for joining us. We will see you all later.
Bye-bye.
If you're not playing on a 3DO system, what are you playing with?